Welcome back to Open House with Mark Siwiec and Corey James Moran, brought to you by Elysian Homes by Mark Siwiec and Associates, a greater Rochester real estate podcast. This is episode 161. Mark, how are you?
I'm good, bud. How you doing?
Feeling better?
Am I feeling better? The question is, are you feeling better?
No, I'm feeling better.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So there was an affirmative statement? It's not a question.
I've been banned to the basement for the past several days, so I don't know what's going on.
Who banned you to the basement?
I was not feeling well, so with a newborn around, can't take too many chances.
Well, that's wise. So Courtney banished you?
Yeah, so it was tough, Mark. I had to go into the basement and sleep as much as I wanted and watch all of the shows that I've been meaning to catch up on.
I'm so sorry you were sick. Sorry.
It was tough. Okay,
So
I don't want to get emotional, so I don't want to talk too much about it.
Did you watch anything good?
I caught up on the morning show. I finally finished that.
Oh, okay.
There's a show
which I like.
It was good.
I think it's good.
Yeah. I don't know if it was good as the first couple seasons, but
I still like it. Well, and we've talked about the sets, the architecture, the design,
the cast.
The cast, the closing. Jennifer Aniston's hair. What else have you seen?
So that, and then The Boys on Amazon.
Oh, I tried. Yeah, no,
You're not
so
a superhero guy. I don't strike you as that.
No, I like Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite?
Who's my Ant-Man?
Really?
Yeah.
You're the only person in the history of the world
I love Ant-Man.
who has said Ant-Man's my favorite.
Do you know why I said that?
Because that's the first one you thought of?
Because he's the only one I can think
There
of.
we go. See, I got a BS meter. All right. I knew it.
Well, you may or may not have a BS meter. What you have is like several years of history with
That
me.
too. That also too. But yeah, so back, ready to focus on some real estate.
Penguin. Have you seen Penguin?
Actually, I did watch the first episode.
And everybody
really
says
good.
it's like unbelievable.
Really good. The fact that that's Colin Farrell blows your mind.
I can't wait. I got to get through Shogun. We're 4 episodes in of 10. And have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, just bone up on it's dense. It is storyline, plot line. Bone up on the history of Christianity in Japan back in the 1200s, 1400s, 1500s. Sorry.
We'll get right on that.
Yeah. Jump on it. All right. What do you got for us, bud?
First off, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching, we do appreciate that. If you're listening to it, you can watch the podcast now on our YouTube channel. A lot to get to.
Do you know the phrase "in living color"? You probably don't.
It was from a show in the 90s, right?
I think there would have been a show with a similar title. In Living Color I think it was CBS. And they had a peacock that was their logo.
Yeah.
And the reason it was because when they transitioned from black and white television to color television, the big thing was in living color. And then the peacock would come and spread its wings blue, red, yellow.
NBC still has that. That's their logo.
Oh yeah. I guess it still is. Yeah. Now you know why.
Well, there we go. A fun fact for the week.
Yeah. Moving on.
Real estate wise, what we plan on getting to for this week. What's up with rates post-Fed cut?
Yep.
Some people are surprised, although if you're a fan of this podcast and you've been watching it or listening to it, you shouldn't be surprised.
Yep. Our listeners are aware, yeah.
Speaking of the Fed, Jerome Powell had some comments regarding the housing market. I don't know if you saw those. And then also the climate's impact on real estate.
I love this.
Saw some striking numbers recently that we'll get into.
Okay, good for you.
But first... Let's jump.
You had all this time on your hands, so
days. I've been researching. I've been researching this podcast for days. The market update, sadly, not great. We were celebrating last week when we saw a nice jump up in the numbers. There was 547 single-family active listings in Monroe County last week. We're at 515. So all the ground we made up, gone.
That's crazy.
It's pretty considerable. 6 county region, 948 last week, 915 currently. So again, a drop there. Also seeing a drop in the properties under contract and pending. You were at 1133 last week. We're at 1109 this week for Monroe County. And for the 6 county region, it was 1749 last week. We're at 1721 this week.
This feels like, both in terms of the day-to-day activity, but also the numbers that you're citing, this feels very much like early to mid-November, doesn't it?
Where it's the slowdown has really begun.
The slowdown has really begun, yeah.
Which is
kind
of
touch on that now, or do you want to?
We could touch on it a little bit because I think it's a little opposite of what we were expecting. We were expecting a bit of a resurgence in the fall based on rates being down. and people trying to get ahead of next year. And we're not really seeing a ton of that.
I mean, personally, our team, we're seeing a lot of listings. I mean, 20 some listings that we have put on the market for sale in the month of September. And we were just, thinking that it was just going to be one after another. And it's been interesting. I mean, we should just plot this on a graph. We were, through August, seeing great activity, a lot of people walking through, private showings, open houses, and we were getting multiple offers. And then all those metrics, the number of people walking through, the number of the private showings, the number of open house attendees, and the number of offers, every week this month, it just declines a little bit more. We put 3 properties in the market for sale 48 hours ago. 2 of them have 1 showing each.
Oh, geez,
and then the third property has 3 showings.
Jeez, that's slow.
It is just, activity has fallen off the cliff.
What do you attribute that to?
One of several things. I mean, this is a segue, but one, it could be the presidential election.
That's what was my first thought. Yeah. People are waiting to see what's going to happen. 2,
I'm probably, jumping on something that we're going to talk about in a short bit. Are people fearful of a recession? Is there, are the indices and are the metrics that we're looking at indicative of the fact that we might be in a recession at this very moment? I don't think so, but nevertheless, the behaviors that we're experiencing, or 3, it could just be like just pure exhaustion on the part of buyers. So, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, the presidential election was number 1 for me, for sure. I mean, there's still, despite what we say, there's still going to also be a large amount of people that keep hearing rates are going to go down in 2025. They're going to wait that out. So that's definitely a factor in play as well. But yeah, it's kind of ironic when you think about it, because the thing we've been hoping for that was going to help, which is that big 50 basis point cut from the Fed last week, actually has had the opposite effect of what we'd hoped.
It really is remarkable. It really is. I mean, these are great. There was a lot of activity at 7.3%, and activity has fallen off at 6.15%. I'm not sure whether or not people are waiting for 2025 rates to drop. I think there's something else playing out. So,
well, you mentioned rates, so we get an update on that as well.
Yeah.
So it was 6.15 last week. We've actually seen them rise.
Right.
The latest numbers I saw was 6.21.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I won't get into it, but I'm not going to be very helpful today because, I mean, clearly there's a lot going on in the business over the course of the past 48 hours. So I'm just going to smile and nod a lot. Is that fair?
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. So 6.21%. I mean, that's up from, I think the lowest was what?
6.11.
Yeah, 6.11. So again, that's a decent sized jump back up. Again, it's nowhere near the 7+ that we saw for so long. And I'm not necessarily worried about it, but it's definitely something we're monitoring closely. That's for sure.
Right.
One thing that's kind of interesting though, so that's the 30-year. When you look at the 15-year, that's actually gone down. So last week was 5.65%. We're at 5.58% right now.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't see it often where the 30-year
divergence,
and the 15-year act differently. Any insight as to why that occurs, is generally speaking?
Usually, as you're saying, they move in tandem with the 10-year Treasury.
Yep.
I would venture to guess that it has something to do with some anomaly and bankers speculating that looking 15 years out, the economy looks good. 30 years out, I don't know. I'm making shit up. So
fair enough. Honest answer.
Did I mention that I should just sit here and smile and nod? I think I'll continue to do just that.
So a little bit confusing right now. We weren't expecting a giant drop in rates, but I don't think anyone was projecting to have them, jump back up a little bit.
I'm actually not surprised by that, because there is day-to-day noise. There is day-to-day sort of fluctuation that occurs. Bond traders are all off for the day. They're celebrating something, or it's people need to bolster their portfolio and rebalance. So they're buying an enormous number of. It can be any number of different things. So I'm not. But what I am surprised by is that there's an increasing likelihood of war in the Middle East. And what is playing out right now with Lebanon and Israel is shockingly not yet impacting markets, financial markets. So
that's interesting,
I'm sort of wondering when that's going to start to impact the market. So
What do you think needs to transpire to get things back on track where we start seeing a drop again?
I think that the PCE needs to come down.
Okay. Yeah.
That was your cue.
Oh, I didn't even see those numbers. I don't have those numbers.
You don't have the PCE numbers?
No, see? 2.2%.
Well,
Alex has got us.
Alex, would you come over here for a second? Get out of here.
Oh, okay. Listen, I was prepping so much for the podcast that I missed PC numbers. So 2.2%. That's good.
Well, yes or no. So the PCE back in July was at 2.7%, I believe. The August numbers, we were anticipating or expecting, or the Fed was expecting something like 2.5%. The PCE dropped to 2.2%, which
okay.
And certain individuals are saying that's great. We really have vanquished inflation at this point in time, and we really are just that much closer to enjoying, to finding ourselves at the 2% target rate that the Fed has set. That's great. Others are like hair on fire, like, holy shit, they started lowering rates too late. We are definitely moving toward a recession.
Got it, okay.
So
why can't they just be happy?
I know, it really is.
Nice.
There's a lot of schizophrenia going on right now. And I think it's going to be a few more months of this before the rate of inflation, whether it's defined by the CPI or the PCE, there's a lot of fluctuation, there's a lot of uncertainty. And until those really start to level out, they just continue, and they've really dropped significantly over the course of the past few months. Do they continue dropping, and do we find ourselves moving into recession, or are they going to level out over the course of the next few months? What happened this morning when the PCE was announced? There is heightened speculation that in the November meeting of the FOMC, there's heightened speculation that the Fed might drop another 50 bips.
Really? Okay. Because the expectation prior to that was that nothing was going to happen in November, and maybe in December we'd see a drop, right?
Yeah. So now people are saying, okay, that's quite a significant drop from what was projected, and so we may very well have to drop interest rates another 50 basis points.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I think that's what we're looking for. Now, surprisingly, the bond market didn't react in the way that I would have thought. The bond market didn't drop as significantly, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen in terms of Mortgage News Daily. If the bond market isn't dropping, it's pretty unusual for the 30-year mortgage to drop. But I do think that over the course of the next few weeks, as we see CPI, as we see employment numbers, et cetera, I think that we will start to see a continued softening of the economy, which will more likely than not push the bond market down, which would then start to impact. So we may very well see interest rates, 30-year mortgage rates, of 6% or even a little bit below by the end of the year.
Okay.
I'm still thinking right around 6%. So.
Okay. Fingers crossed. That would be nice.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Whether or not it's going to have any impact in terms of the behavior of buyers, for the remaining quarter of this year, I'm not quite sure. But
it doesn't really do us much good, at least here in Rochester, if that happens in December, since there's nothing going on anyway.
Yeah. Actually, what is really interesting is the articles that I've been reading, the podcast that I'm listening to. There is a lot of resurgence in buying activity around the country. It's just that Rochester is behaving differently than almost the entire rest of the United States. So I'm not quite sure why it is that our buyers and our sellers have decided to take this moment to take a breath and pause when it is that the remainder of the United States. I mean, the number of new mortgage applications that were filed last week is actually far greater than it was this time. So they're starting to see that for the first time in several years, there's increased activity as opposed to decreased activity.
Interesting.
So
and the refinancing is up too.
Refinancing is up also, significantly. So it's very interesting. Okay. So,
certainly we will see. I mean, we knew this roller coaster ride wasn't going to stop.
Yeah, I continue to be very, very, very optimistic about 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of rates and the Fed, Jerome Powell spoke recently specifically about the housing market. And he is essentially saying that rates and the Fed can't fix it. He's kind of passing the buck a little bit.
Well,
to a degree. And he's not wrong.
God, I mean, we need to have a button installed. Maybe Alex can get us a button. We need to have a button installed which talks about the need for government local, state, and federal government to do something about the lack of inventory that's available for buyers who want to purchase. I mean, we're 4.5 million units shy of where we need to be. And I'm getting fed up with it, to be honest.
Yeah, he cited the low inventory. He cited under building issues.
Yes.
I mean, again, all the things that we've covered here on the podcast, and there definitely needs to be something. We talked a little while back about Kamala Harris's plan. Again, we need something more than just that, I feel like.
Right.
I mean, even the good parts of it, I don't think it's going to be enough to reverse what we need to reverse.
Yeah. And this is no longer an issue that is impacting us as real estate agents. This is an issue that, well, let's face it, buyers have just been beaten up for the past 4.5 years. And at some point in time, government, at what point in time does this become a crisis in the eyes of our elected officials?
Yeah,
and it's got to happen quickly. So
I mean, I mentioned it, before right after the debate. That was one of the first things that was brought up was the housing market and affordability just being in the tank.
Yeah, sadly and unfortunately, there seems to be a disconnect between the realities that buyers and real estate professionals are experiencing day to day, and the concern that elected officials are expressing. And
they have houses.
Well, yeah,
they don't care.
Yeah. Actually, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to do a profile of elected officials' homes, and I'd love to start with Mark Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's jump to this. This was an interesting stat that I saw.
You're just moving on.
That's what I do.
I'm
not going to bite. No,
you're not biting.
Listen, just because I'm in a weakened state right now, you're going to try to get me.
Okay, wait. All right, just one question. You have read some of the insanity coming out of that guy's mouth over the course. Yeah. Wow.
Are you shocked by any of this?
Yeah, that's like.
Oh, okay, we've gotten to that level of surprise.
I mean, that's insane. Yeah. All right, moving on.
Speaking of insane,
yes,
some insane numbers here about how the climate could be impacting real estate. This is by 2050. Real estate could suffer a $0.5 trillion hit because of the climate.
Okay.
So this is kind of interesting. We've talked about it quite a bit. Florida, California,
Texas, yeah.
Those areas of the country that are impacted by hurricanes, wildfires, the crazy storms that we have seen, insurance companies pulling out of those areas.
Oh my God, yes, yeah.
I mean, finally getting a number on that. $559 billion is what could be at stake here based on that.
That's crazy. Yeah, my mom's down in Florida, and her insurance premiums just continue to go up. And we've talked about this on several occasions. I mean, everybody wants to move to Florida. It's the great haven. It's the great oasis. I mean, dear God. I mean, yeah. If A, you can afford the real estate, and B, if you can afford or even find somebody to insure your home.
100%. So there's two parts to this, right? So there's the impact, the damage that all these houses are going to face, and then there's of course the opportunity as well. And that is these climate adaptation models of these different businesses that come in. Flood proofing is a big one.
Yeah,
this is kind of a crazy stat. So every dollar spent in flood proofing could save $3.55.
Oh, wow.
Greening roofs are a thing that our people are talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Which could yield $7.45 in savings per dollar invested.
Wow.
So that's going to be a thing to look forward to as well in terms of just investment. These companies that are coming through to either prevent some of this damage or try to help it any way whatsoever.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, we've said it over and over again. I'll be dead by the time it happens. But
2050, you'll be around.
Well, yeah. But Rochester again.
Well, sure, for us,
yeah, exactly. So it will become a destination.
I don't think these two things are necessarily not linked. Zillow has added climate risk data to their real estate listings.
Okay, interesting.
Have you seen that?
No, because you know why?
Because you hate Zillow and you never look at it?
Because I never log on to Zillow because it's just a terrible website.
But it is interesting. So they're going to add floods, wildfires, high winds, extreme temperatures, and air quality for each property. As part of the listing.
All right, so credit due. Yeah. That's impressive. That really is impressive.
I mean, important things to consider moving forward.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'd love, we should at some point in time do a comparison of how Rochester in general ranks against, let's call it I don't know, New Orleans or St. Pete, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've talked about in the podcast at length in the past about how we are seeing people already beginning to migrate here.
Yes, yeah,
and
exactly.
it's obviously just kind of the beginning, most likely, of what we're going to be seeing.
Yeah.
All right, listener question. Ready for it?
Yeah, we got another one, huh?
Yeah, by the way, if you would like to pose a listener question, if you have any questions about real estate, you can always reach out, comment on our YouTube channel, any of our social media. You can just show up at the office, whatever you want to do.
Do you know, or does Alex know? Where did this one come in from?
This is from Ryan from Fairport, who reached out on Facebook. He says, "Hi, Mark and Corey. My wife and I have been having conversations about what we can do to improve our chances of getting more money when we sell our home in the next couple of years. We're specifically talking about replacing our AC system, which is running perfectly fine, but is on the much older side. Do you think upgrading that would significantly improve the value of our home, or should we focus our efforts elsewhere?"
Easy question.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Really, when it comes down to it, the things you want to be focusing on are aesthetic. If you plan on selling soon, if you plan on staying in your house for another 10 years and your AC unit's about to crap the bed, then you probably want to invest in it.
Right.
Because when you go to list and it's not functioning, that's going to be a problem for you. But if it's just on the older side and not having issues at this point, I mean, a buyer's going to look at that and they may assess that and what their offer is going to be, but it's not really going to stop them.
There is very little return on investment for anything that is structural or mechanical. New roofs, new furnaces, new hot water tanks, new electrical, new windows. None of that increases the value of the property. Buyers just assume that when they turn on the thermostat or turn on the furnace in the middle of January, that the furnace is going to kick in and it's going to keep them warm. They're not willing to pay extra money because a furnace is 2 years old versus 9 years old.
Sure.
So yeah, but the converse of that, the corollary to that is anything that's aesthetic. Newly refinished hardwood floors.
Sure.
New carpet. Removal of wallpaper. We've talked about this. Paint.
I mean, paint's the biggest thing. The paint is the easiest and cheapest way to transform your house.
I think that's number 2.
Between carpets?
No. Number 1?
Yeah.
Soap and water.
Well, yeah, cleaning, sure.
I mean, soap and water is like so simple. But there are properties that just... So soap and water... And then paint, absolutely. And then I agree with you, like either hardwoods or carpet.
And then you get into bathrooms, kitchens. I think you want to be careful there because, again, if you plan on selling in a couple of years, probably not worth the investment. If you plan on selling in 5 to 10 years, you're going to enjoy that new bathroom. You're going to enjoy the new kitchen.
Yep.
You will get, obviously some of that investment back out of it.
Yep.
So it is kind of a delicate balance.
Yeah. And if you're going to do anything to a kitchen, in anticipation of listing sometime in the next few months, maybe it's just countertops. Maybe it's just new hardware.
Sure.
So
nice backsplash.
Nice backsplash. Yeah.
Spruce it up.
Yeah. There are definitely some small cosmetic things you can do.
But what are the things that that we're talking about here? Things you can see versus a furnace, a hot water tank, which obviously you can see if it looks older, but really, I mean, there's nothing sexy about it, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, unless you're an engineer.
Well, sure.
Yeah. Seriously, and then you can spend 10, 15 minutes, looking at, wiring.
It's high efficiency.
Yeah.
Look at that. All right. Anything else on this before we jump to a little celebrity real estate?
No, I should open up my iPad, huh?
You should. I'd send it over. We've got an update on one that I believe we've talked about. Jim Carrey has slashed the price of his LA mansion for the 4th time.
Oh.
He's having a rough go here. So he originally listed this 5-bedroom, 9-bathroom mansion back in February of last year for $28.9 million. He did a recent reduction to $19.75 million. This is the one that's located in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, which, if you are familiar with the Brentwood neighborhood, O.J. Simpson probably comes to mind because that's where
exactly.
that also plays.
He and Nicole. Yeah, that's where she, looks like a nice, Look at all that stonework, the pool, that's fantastic.
Well, it's one of the things I think we talked about when we first addressed this one is the outdoor area is pretty phenomenal. The pool's awesome. But it's interesting that it's still sitting. 4 price drops.
Yeah, that's a really handsome home.
But I will say this, Jim Carrey, you're probably going to be selling this shortly because we do have just a track record on this podcast where if we talk about properties
that is true
that are sitting.
Yeah.
By the way,
I did speak to Michael the other day.
Okay, good.
And he says thank you.
He's appreciative. Okay.
Yeah, he's very, very appreciative. And with that, I think, unfortunately, Bud, We got to call an end to this show.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. You want to read us out?
All right. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again next week.